Hello and welcome to the Premier League review. We can't call it the Premier League review, otherwise we'd get done. I'm Adam Wilbourn from WhatCulture Football, joined by Andrew Pollard from WhatCulture Football to talk about the weekend's fixtures and where we go from here. But before we get into it, if you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to WhatCulture Football, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily football podcasts when you are out and about. Andrew Pollard, the first game week of the Premier League is in the books. I smashed it on fantasy football. You can still join the WhatCulture Football Fantasy Football League. The link should be somewhere in the description. You can still catch up, trust me, especially if I'm doing well. But anyway, let's talk about what happened at the weekend. There's only one place to start. The 7-goal thriller between Leeds and champions Liverpool. What a game that was. I mean, no good if you're a fan of defending, but a good game nonetheless.
Yeah, it was. Everybody was kind of, I think one of the biggest, well, the most intriguing points going into this opening weekend was how were Leeds going to do? And in terms of a litmus test, it doesn't really get much trickier than going to the home of the champions. And they give a really good account of themselves. Bielsa had clearly done his homework, which goes without saying. But just they exploited some weaknesses there in that Liverpool side, especially obviously at the back, the fact that it was 4-3. And yeah, I felt, to be honest, I felt that Leeds probably deserved a point out of it. There was the disallowed own goal, I guess, technically go down as from Trent Alexander-Arnold. And you thought, like, that's it, Leeds are back in this. But obviously that was ruled out for an initial offside. But no, it was a great game to watch. Mo Salah with an absolute beautiful second goal, and Jack Harrison opening his scoring with a really nice strike cutting in from the left, showing that he has that quality. Which people were wondering, he's one of those players where people were thinking, how is he going to step up to the Premier League? Obviously on loan still from Manchester City, but Leeds gave a really good account of themselves. Patrick Bamford got a goal, which a lot of my Leeds supporting friends were. They weren't fancying Bamford's chances in the Premier League, but it was clever play for him. He anticipated Virgil van Dijk making a mistake, and Van Dijk made a mistake. But no, it was a great game. It was a really good opening day fixture. Obviously, the opening fixture was Fulham and Arsenal, but yeah, I'd say there's a lot of positives there for Leeds. There's some positives for Liverpool, but also if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be a little bit concerned.
Yes, exactly. I was very chuffed when I saw this result. I wasn't watching the game. I was away camping and I had sporadic signal and would just get series of messages, people coming through and going, what is going on in this game? I predicted it was going to be 4-2 in our Premier League preview podcast. Yep. I was pretty chuffed about that, but insane. What do you think that this means for both teams going forward then, as you sort of alluded to? Like, Leeds have shown they can cut it amongst the big boys, and Liverpool, I suppose, if you want to look for positives, have shown they can do the classic win ugly. But teams coming up against Liverpool have sort of been given a blueprint of potentially how to play against them and some hope for this season at least.
Yeah, it was Leeds did that thing that a lot of teams are sometimes scared to do against Liverpool, especially in the last probably 18 months, 2 seasons, where Leeds played with no fear. They went out at Liverpool. They weren't intimidated by obviously a very good Liverpool team. And so I think for both teams now, it's okay. From a Liverpool point of view, you've won ugly, essentially. You've got the 3 points, which at this stage of the season is all that matters. And with Leeds, you've lost, but you've put in a really good account of yourselves. And so I think the next games are huge now. You've made these two kind of marks in the sand now. For Leeds, they've got Fulham next, where if they get a win in that, and then they can maybe go on a little bit of a run, then you think Leeds, that's half the fight when it comes to staying up, at least. And with Liverpool, they've obviously got Chelsea the next game, which... It's one thing winning ugly against a Leeds team who've just been promoted, but going to Chelsea, who a lot of people are tipping to be title contenders with Liverpool and Manchester City, that's a huge game for Chelsea and for Liverpool. So, yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what comes next if both teams can carry on the momentum, because it is. I think Leeds, there is some momentum there to carry on with, even though they've lost. And so Fulham is almost a perfect game, really, I think, for them in that regard.
Can't wait to preview both those games ahead of next weekend. You talk about Fulham there. Let's talk about the Arsenal result, the first game. Aubameyang, as we predicted, performing well along with a whole host of other Arsenal players, in particular Willian, of course, heavily involved in the goals. What do you reckon this means for Arsenal? Is this just, a match you would expect them to win, or is this an indication they can perhaps, or their fans can raise their expectations a little bit and maybe Arsenal make the top 4 this season?
See, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a very boring middle-aged man now, but I don't know. I try not to get too carried away with results. And to me, I think that, I looked at this and it's one of those where you expected Arsenal to win. They did. They played well. Fulham, it's one of those sides where you'd like to see Fulham do well, but they weren't in the game at all.
They didn't start Mitrovic, which pissed me off so much. I put him on that side.
Yeah, well, Arsenal didn't start Eddie Nketiah and Osaka as well. So, and they were both in my fantasy football team, both one on my bench, and then Eddie Nketiah gets on for the last 3 minutes. Like, nice one. Cheers, Mikel Arteta. I think with Arsenal, I wouldn't get too carried away because it's a game that they're expected to win. But on the positive side of that, there's been so often in the last probably 3 seasons where Arsenal have had games where they're expected to win and they don't. So that it's a positive. They played well. And now it's a case of how they carry that on. But yeah, they did everything that was expected of them. They were very professional. They always looked like a goal threat. They looked like they could have got a lot more than 3, to be honest. And there was some good performances across the board, I think. Willian, you talked about there. I think it was the assist for all 3 goals. And just as a free transfer, great signing.
Yeah, I believe they could sneak into the top 4. And certainly, looking forward to next weekend, the West Ham game. Feels like a definite potential for lots more fantasy football points, let's say. But yeah, I think Arsenal are my outside tip for the top 4 this season. I mentioned West Ham there. I know you said you're not the sort of person to get carried away, but I got a lot of messages from Newcastle supporting friends over this weekend, basically saying, "Are we title contenders?" I mean, they only won 2-0 against West Ham United, but Callum Wilson got a goal for them. And, the mood around Newcastle surrounding this side has changed dramatically. Mike Ashley is now a hero. I think I'm hearing he's getting the Messi of lawyers so they can take on the Premier League or whatever. But what did you reckon to this result? You said in our preview that you thought it was kind of going to go this way, but essential to get points on the board, isn't it? And many people already tipping Moyes to be potentially the first manager sacked in the Premier League.
Yeah,
or just walks out potentially.
Yeah, all that. Crazy one with West Ham. But no, I actually predicted 2-0 to Newcastle. So that's my one thing I'm clinging on to this weekend after an abysmal fantasy football start for me. But on the Newcastle front, as title contenders, it's almost like we work for a company based in Newcastle and work with a lot of Newcastle fans. And our lovely editor, Adam Nicholas, is a Newcastle supporter. It's crazy. Yeah. But a Newcastle United title contenders, no. But
that's the bit where he's going to overdub you and just yes.
Yes. Yeah. It'd be like one of those old action movies where it'll be my voice. Well, it won't be my voice. It'll be my mouth. Or one of those really dodgy kind of adverts for like toilet cleaners you see, where the adverts from like Scandinavia, but it's with like somebody with a Scouse accent just going whatever we need to say on this. But no, I think it was a really good performance from Newcastle. Yeah. To me, I said in our preview that I thought it was a bigger game for West Ham than Newcastle because I think West Ham could be on the verge of some major problems if they don't have a good start. You talked about David Moyes might resign, might be fired. They seem like they might have to. Well, they've already sold some players off. There's talk of Declan Rice now. Chelsea might be coming back in for him with a firm offer. So it feels like there's always turmoil just around the corner with West Ham, but also likewise with Newcastle. There always seems like there's turmoil these last few seasons around the corner. I thought it was a really positive start. I thought Manquillo looked great. I was a little bit surprised by him. I thought Jeff Hendrick was fantastic. But I'd kind of called that. I think that was a really good bit of business getting him on a free transfer. Callum Wilson got a goal, which is all you can ask. And me and Nicholas were talking about this yesterday, actually, about Big Andy Carroll looked like a player. It was, you don't want to get too carried away with him. But yeah, he looked really impressive. And I think it benefits him having a Callum Wilson around him, having a Ryan Fraser, just having Alan Saint-Maximin all building around him rather than him having to be that focal point all the time. It can just be built around him and everybody else is buzzing around him. And I thought, Newcastle was a great result and it's a positive start. There's talk of them making more signings as well. So who knows? Maybe it could be a good season for Newcastle. For title contenders, though, I think maybe getting a little carried away.
Yeah, I don't know. Look where they are on the table. And, when Man United won the treble, they had York, Cole, Sheringham and Solskjaer. Newcastle United have got Callum Wilson, Andy Carroll, Alan Maximan and Jolinton. There you go. Oh. And McGee as well, yeah. So if anything, better than United's
Really.
side. Very quickly, we should mention the other game on Saturday. Palace 1-0 against Southampton. A good result for Palace, but also really interestingly, I thought the use of VAR with the whole Kyle Walker-Peters sending off being rescinded. I thought that was really good to see.
Yeah, it was, because watching, as one of those sad people that watched every game live pretty much, apart from one game this weekend, you watched it, you're thinking, that seems like a bit of a harsh red card. And fair play. I know that the referees this season have been encouraged to go over to the side of the pitch and to have a look on their little monitors, which is what we were all crying out for last season. But they did it, and fair play. I can't remember which referee it was, but they rescinded the red card, and it was cool to see. And I think it was, I mean, obviously it wasn't planned, but I think it was a nice bit of happenstance that this happened on the opening game of the opening weekend of the season, where we can see that, right, this is what the rules are now, where it is going to be encouraged to go and look at the pitch side monitors, and these decisions can be overturned. I mean, in the game, it didn't particularly help Southampton, but yeah, it was good to see that. It was a harsh red, and Palace looked good. I'll be honest, I was disappointed with Southampton. I really fancied him in this, but yeah, Wilfried Zaha was on it, and when Wilfried Zaha's on it, then he's a tricky player to stop. How long he is on it and how long he is at Crystal Palace, that remains to be seen, because rumours again of Everton maybe on the horizon for him, or a other club before the deadline comes in early October. But yeah, great performance from Palace, good win from Palace. Zaha, really nice goal. He had a goal disallowed for offside just before his goal, which was another nice finish. And so, yeah, it was a good win for Palace. Disappointing for Southampton, though.
Let's talk about Sunday and Monday's games. I picked him as a bit of a wild card for my fantasy football. So I didn't score that many points, but he was noticeable in the Spurs game. James Rodriguez helping Everton get a 1-0 victory over Spurs. Just another exciting thing to look forward to in next season's All or Nothing, potentially.
Well, yes. I'd love to see it, because just Jose wasn't happy. Jose, he was very grumpy. Jose, he was saying about how lazy his attacking players were. Jose, he was, I need a new striker. Jose, that was what we got in the post match. But Everton, to their credit, I thought were really good in spells. They looked really, really encouraging if you're an Everton fan, especially the three new signings in midfield with Dida Decore, Alan, and James Rodriguez, all just clicking. That was it. There's always that thing of like, how long is it going to take for a player to bed into a side, especially when you've got three of them all coming in. All three look like they've been playing for Everton for a good few seasons. In fact, no, we don't, because they've been playing for Everton for a good few seasons. They'd probably be CAC by now. But they all look really good. I was really, really impressed with Alan. He just did so much of the, I guess, the dirty work, where it was just, he was always busy, always winning the ball, always just playing it simple, just doing minimal things really, really well, which sometimes can go a bit unnoticed. James was just a touch of class on the ball. He just, his awareness and his technical ability is shining through already in that one game. I mean, it could just be one game as a blip, and these could be awful in a few months' time. But all three look good. Decore, there was one particular tackle he made getting back on, I think it was Lucas Moura, who'd just gone motoring through. And it seemed like he was clearing away at goal, but Decore kind of came from nowhere and won the ball. And yeah, I think all three players really, really. The Everton fans have warned him already, and the goal from Dominic Calvert-Lewin was a phenomenal header. Very much, it's an easy, lazy cliche to make, but very much Duncan Ferguson sort of header. It was, and a really good ball in from Luca Dini on the left side off a free kick, and yeah, it was really Everton really positive all round. Jordan Pickford, whew, he actually had to me, I thought he had a really good game. He kept coming confidently for a lot of punches, a lot of balls, and he was getting good contact on them, a good few saves. His kicking is always good, and his kicking was good. So yeah, all around it was positive for Everton. Spurs were worrying. They just looked flat. They looked knackered already, which I know there's been that quick turnaround of the preseason. I know a lot of the Spurs players have been away on international duty in the last week or two, but they looked they didn't look sharp. They looked tired. They look fatigued. They look not interested a lot of the time. Dele Alli taken off at halftime. Harry Kane wasn't in the game. Son had a few bright moments here and there, but all in all for Spurs, it wasn't a great day at the office.
A big game for them against Southampton next weekend. It's the first after the first weekend. I'm going to be making outlandish statements that I'm eventually going to backtrack on. But I have to say, judging by what I saw between Leicester and West Brom, I'd be very concerned if I was a West Brom fan.
Yeah, West Brom and Fulham are the two teams that I've come out this opening weekend being really concerned about. Now, whenever teams get promoted, there's always, you expect them to be in that relegation dogfight, at least for that first season. It's rare that somebody comes up and does a Sheffield United, for example, last season. Obviously, Wolves did well when they came up, but they had some money behind them. But I think of the three that come up, you thought Leeds, okay, they might adapt well. It could click for them and they could have a relatively decent season. But yeah, West Brom and Fulham, I think everybody was worried about them going into the opening game of the season and coming out of the two games that the one games each they played. And yeah, West Brom, they offered nothing against Leicester. And Leicester, I know obviously two of the goals from Jamie Vardy were penalties, but Leicester could have scored a few more. West Brom were not at it. They seemed to lack any real quality. They got broken down too easy. The midfield was nowhere to be seen really. And Sam Johnston did all right in goal, but other than that, I think it's going to be a long, hard season for West Brom and also I think for Fulham.
And I really like what I saw from Leicester City because I even heard some fans over the weekend, I think it was on 606, saying that Brendan Rodgers was their favourite to be sacked first this season. And I get it. You know, they really fell off towards the end of last season and they dropped from a side that we talked about before were second even at one point in the league to just missing out on the Champions League. But no, I believe they can do really well. I don't necessarily think they are going to break the top four again. But with someone like Brendan Rodgers, who I'm a big fan, I have to say, so I'm slightly biased. I think they're gonna hit the heights that are expected of them. Although yes, they once won the Premier League. Let's not forget that. Let's talk about last night's games. Chelsea, much changed. Chelsea beating Brighton and Hove Albion 3-1. Reece James getting a great goal in that game. What did you think of Frank Lampard's new look side?
They still didn't look great at the back. I'm going to be honest with starting with that. Obviously, they've still got Thiago Silva to come in. They've got Malang Sarr to come in. Azpilicueta started on the bench. So they've still got players to come in. Ben Chilwell obviously wasn't fit. So basically, that back four could be completely different by in a couple of weeks' time, really. And Kepa clearly is not going to be number one in a couple of weeks' time. You'd imagine you're thinking I wasn't sure if maybe Lampard was going to start Willy Caballero, but then. He started Kepa and he did himself no favours really. I think his time as first choice is slowly coming to an end. But other than that, I thought going forward, Chelsea looked very positive. I thought Timo Werner made some really good runs, very lively, which is what we'd expect from him really. Obviously won the penalty. I thought Jorginho really controlled it well in midfield. And N'Golo Kante, who talked bizarrely of maybe Chelsea being prepared to let him move on, which baffles me right now. But he was really good. I thought he was everywhere. Reece James, it's a tricky one. He scored a beautiful goal. Obviously took the corner that Zuma scored off. But I thought the first half really he was a little bit all over the place. And I mean Trossard was having a good game on the left for Brighton in that first half and exposed him a little bit. But when you get an assist and when you get that sort of goal, then Reece James on the other side had a hell of a game going forward. But lots of positives for Chelsea. Kai Havertz started, looked okay. Didn't quite look at it just yet, but no. I mean, I think he's only been training with the club since the end of last week. So I mean, there's a lot more to come from him. But yeah, it was professional for Chelsea. I think the fact that as well as Malang Sarr and Ben Chilwell and Thiago Silva, Hakim Ziyech also wasn't playing. So you got four of the new signings that weren't in contention. So I think for this, the main thing was to get a win against a Brighton team that set up really well and looked solid the first half, I thought, at the back. But yeah, I thought it was a very professional performance in Chelsea, and that's what they need at this period of the season, I think.
And who knows, if he tries to replace Kepa as number one, maybe he'll just refuse. Final game we have to talk about is Sheffield United, Wolverhampton Wanderers. Wolves picking up where they left off, really.
Yeah, a bit gutted on this one. I was, as somebody who, again, went hard on my Sheffield United players in my fantasy football team, I was rooting for them, although I think to me, as somebody that he doesn't really have a dog in the Premier League fight, as it were, last season Sheffield United and Wolves were probably the two teams I enjoyed watching the most. So it was a game I was looking forward to, but yeah, Sheffield United just didn't get going, and Wolves very much did. And I thought Wolves looked really sharp. Raul Jimenez was fantastic.
Yeah.
I thought Saiz had a really good game. They were both the goal scorers, but Saiz had a really good clearance off the line towards the end of the game, and Connor Cody was just strong at the back. And Sheffield United, they pushed on a lot in the second half and had a few kind of, I guess you say, half chances. John Fleck in the post, but it always felt like, I don't know, it felt like they weren't quite the Sheffield United we saw last season, and maybe it'll take them a few games to get up and running. I know after the restart, it seemed like that the first game or two after the restart, they didn't seem quite there, but once they got going again, then they hit their form and they looked great. And I've said it before in our preview, I've got a lot of faith in Chris Wilder, so I'm sure Sheffield United will do really well this season again. But yeah, this game, it was just Wolves, I thought, dominated a lot of the first half, and that really set the tone for the game, really, especially when they went 2-0 up.
Yeah, exactly. Best team of the weekend and Monday for you?
Ooh, this is a tricky one. I don't know. I want to say Everton just because I really enjoyed watching James Rodriguez and Alan and Decore and Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison all linking up really, really well. Richarlison, the dude could have had a hat-trick, or at least two, or he could have set up Dominic Calvert-Lewin for an open goal. But yeah, anyway, I'll probably go with Everton just because it was, I mean, obviously we've had Liverpool attacking-wise look great. Leeds gave a really good account of themselves. Arsenal did what they needed to do. Chelsea did what they needed to do. Leicester the same. Newcastle were great, and that was a big win for them. But yeah, I think Everton, just because it was against Spurs, and there's a lot of hope for Spurs to do something this season. And yeah, Spurs weren't great, but Everton started to win that game. And I just thought, just to see, I just really enjoyed watching the new lads coming into that side and linking up with Calvert-Lewin, linking up with Richarlison, and it just seemed like they clicked really, really well so early on. And yeah, I'm going to go with Everton.
Just to rub salt into the wounds for Spurs fans, I'm going to go with Arsenal as my favourite team this weekend, because I just think that's a game that the old Arsenal, not the old Arsenal, the Invincibles Arsenal, they're like oldish Arsenal, would have definitely stumbled and conceded goals in that one and looked vulnerable and dropped points. They made it look easy. As much as I want to give my team of the weekend to Newcastle, I'm already pumping the brakes on that statement I made near the beginning. But anyway, let us know your thoughts on everything that happened over the weekend in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll be doing videos all about fantasy football tips for next weekend and, of course, previewing next weekend's fixtures in the coming few days. You can continue the conversation on Twitter at WhatCultureFC, where you can find both of us. Andrew, where can people get you on Twitter?
Yeah, you can get me at Culture the Left Peg.
And you can find me, and no doubt send me abuse, at Adam Wilbourn. Follow us all at WhatCultureFC, and make sure you subscribe to What Culture Football for daily football podcasts if you want to listen to these when you are out and about. But this has been the Premier League review. My thanks to Andrew Pollard. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon.